What's up? And welcome to the Stand Up and Shout Rock Show. We're coming to you live from Salisbury Center Studios in Manassas, Virginia, as part of the Wild Style Network, fueled by Monster Energy. What's up, man?
So much. How you doing?
Doing good. Happy Wednesday.
Happy was we got a good day today, and we're a day earlier than our normal schedule since
Yes,
we switched to Thursdays because we have honored guests here today.
that's right. Joining us via the magic of Zoom, we've got Nicholas Pare and Jimmy Chalfont. Nicholas is songwriter and guitarist of the band Nicholas Pare and the Jags, and joining us to talk about his new album and upcoming show.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. And you can't leave out the fact that Jimmy's from Kicks,
Absolutely not.
a band that Jimmy, we can't thank you for enough. That we've loved and honored for many, many years.
Well, thank you very much. It was our pleasure.
Yes.
So, Nicholas, we're happy to talk to you, and you reached out, and we want to talk a little bit about the new song you getting ready to release, as well as the album. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and the band, and sort of the new material that's coming together.
Sure. So, uh, the biggest thing is the songwriting process for me took place, I don't know, probably since I was 20. I'm 22 years old now. Like you
Mhm.
said, I'm the songwriter and guitarist. I do not sing. I cannot sing. So don't ask ever for me to sing. And well, the process for me started, like I said, with the songs and then moving into putting together a studio band. I was looking around to, some of the top-notch musicians that was aware of and that I knew. And obviously with the connection through my dad, I was able to talk to Jimmy, and we have several musical influences that were common. We shared a lot, one particularly being the Beatles. So both of us being big Beatles fans, I connected with Jimmy on that because a lot of the music that I decided to write and that we're releasing does not necessarily sound like 80s rock. So we're not a glam band by any means. It's going to cross a couple genres. There's some hard rock, hard energy stuff, but most of it is also kind of boiling down to that songwriter type music. And I put up some promo clips on my social medias, and a lot of that is heavier music. But some of the songs that Jimmy was nice enough to work on, they're not going to be that heavy style of music.
Sure. That kind of brings me like to the collection of musicians that you're speaking to there, Nicholas.
Yeah,
So we've listened to some of your stuff that we've just been able to grab that's out there online in various ways, streaming platforms, all those types of pieces. I'm curious about seems to be a change in title, right, with Nicholas Pare and the Jags. So can you
yeah,
maybe explain for those who don't know, including myself, specifically who are the Jags?
sure. So the Jags are going to be a live band, and looking at it from the marketing perspective, if I'm creating an album and I want to put it out there for people to listen to, it needs a name. And I didn't want to call it just my name because if I said Nicholas Pare, then everybody just automatically assumes it's the singer. And so if I added something else to the name, people, or I'm sure, will still think that that's the singer. It's not, it's the guitar player and songwriter. But if you look at the hired gun element to how a lot of the bands are nowadays, it's a lot of plug and play. And so JAG stands for just a guy. And I know you guys have a sports show that follows this one. So if there's anybody listening before the sports show, former Ravens receiver Steve Smith had said that Jerry Jeudy, who's a receiver on the Broncos, was a JAG, which stood for just a guy, meaning he's just an average, you know, average Joe. And that was not the basis for why I picked it. It came up as somebody had thrown that at me as almost as an insult. And then I was like, oh, that would be perfect if I was a Jag. Like that would be perfect. So I spun it into a positive.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then obviously, so you've got some reach. Your dad, I think you mentioned, is performing on part of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so talk a little bit about when you get into a live element, will the musicians who performed on the album, are they going to be part of the live band, or how are your live shows going to come together?
Sure. So some of the musicians will share responsibilities of studio and live. One of which being Sean Frazier, our vocalist. He's a really, really good guy, but he lives in California. So most of the stuff that he recorded, either he flew out here or recorded remotely. As far as our first show goes, on June 29th, we're doing a show at a venue called Vanish Hall. And that show he'll be there and he'll be contributing some vocally, as well as uh, there's a potential that Jimmy Chalfont will make an appearance. We're working on
Mhm.
that, and it
If you can
it's
fit it in the budget, right?
yeah, it's not cheap. But using a lot of the older musicians that I used in the studio, that's not necessarily the look or the brand I wanted to go for. So I have a lot of talented local musicians that are younger or closer to my age, and that's what I'm going to use as my main core for my band.
Cool. Excellent. So getting back, really kind of what you commented before on this influence that you have for your new music and kind of hearing, and we did listen to your older and, as you said, heavier stuff. You mentioned the Beatles. How are you bringing that together? I'm just curious now that you mentioned that and brought that up. So are you still bringing those heavier influences into the newer stuff that you're doing?
Yeah, yep. So it's going to be a good mix between the Beatley type things as well as the hard rock stuff because deep down I do still love loud guitars. And who doesn't love loud guitars? So
Sure.
that's probably at the core of everything. But out, bringing in and just, getting older, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this too. As you get older, you start to listen to different music. And as a
Sure.
songwriter, the stuff you're listening to changes what you write or how you hear things in your head. And so there is a blend of the 60s ish, 70s ish rock stuff, as well as extreme Nickelback, all that kind of
Mm,
rock.
nice.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, I want to ask you. Obviously, I mean, it's been well publicized. Kick's retired. We've had the fortune of seeing you out because we were at the Extreme show. We saw a bunch of the guys from the band there, as well as saw some of the posts. We were also at M3, and I believe you were out at least for one of the nights. Um,
Yep.
how is this helping keep you occupied, or in terms of you know Hicks calling it retiring or calling it quits? Um, how's this working for you in terms of being able to fill in and work with Nicholas? And are there other kind of side projects you're working to occupy your time?
Um, Nothing else right now, but I mean, working with Nicholas has been a lot of fun for me because, for one thing, I have my drums in my basement and I can do all the recording right here. And especially with Nicholas, he sent me the demos and with a few comments about each song, about what influences he had for each song, and just some of those influences I wasn't real familiar with. So in listening to the songs, I'd go back and listen to some of the influences to get an idea what direction to go on some of the songs. Some of the other ones, it was really easy because I heard right away where it was going, and and not necessarily the same place that Nicholas thought it was going on,
No,
on a couple songs. But he's been very generous with me in allowing me to do, you know, whatever I want, really. And that's been a blessing. And also in doing it here at my house, I'm able to learn a little more about recording and engineering, and I ended up because of that, I ended up recording a lot of these songs probably 3 or 4 times, just in a learning process for myself, which is it's been really nice for that, rather going in the studio and being on somebody's time clock.
Right.
It gives you a lot more luxury to do it here.
So, in terms of your songwriting process and influencing maybe some of the lyrical themes or styles that are in your current new releases, Can you maybe speak to that a little bit? What has been your process for either one of you? It sounds like Jimmy, you're contributing also to the songwriting that's here. So how did you kind of come up with some of your newer material?
No, I'm contributing with drum parts. That's really the only contribution that I've had.
But
Sure.
we shouldn't downplay that, because like we were talking about with some of the songs, they get elevated when you change the rhythmic pattern or the drums or whatever it is that we're talking about. Whether percussion, Jimmy did a ton of percussion tracks, which really created a small nuance in a lot of the songs. So as far as the songwriting process goes, he's taken what I've had and he's taken it to a better level, and something that I didn't necessarily hear in my head. And then he heard it, and now it's that way. But as far as lyrics go, I shared some of the lyric contributions and the lyric writing with Sean Frazier, who's our vocalist on the album. Thematically, I would say it's not necessarily like a dumb rock band, like singing about drugs, alcohol, anything like that. It's not like that at all.
It's not like Kicks.
Yeah, no, it's far from it. It is far from it.
Yes.
Look, it takes a lot of talent to sing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yes. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. I definitely would not be able to pull that off. And so yeah, I mean, there's still, everybody writes songs about a girl, so there's that. And then I like Iron Maiden. So there's a tune that we have called Blood and Sand that's coming out that kind of fits somewhere in that Peace of Mind era Iron Maiden, which I dig that song. Our producer Brad Divins sent me a copy of that yesterday, and I cannot stop listening to it. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, so I was actually going to mention that because you noted it in the email, but for those of us, DC, Baltimore area, quite familiar with Brad from his time, both when he played with Kicks for a bit, but also with Wrathchild America. So did he do the entire production work for this album that's coming out?
Yeah, so he's been the only person that has been in charge of the mixing process. He'll send some of the tracks off to get mastered, which we started that process already. And he's been really, really important because he can hear the things that I can't hear. And he tells me all the notes I missed and all the notes that I'm late on. And he gets to tell me how to make it better. But I will say, the influence of Wrathchild is evident on the song that I was talking about called Blood and Sand, because they have a song called Desert Grins, which I don't know if you guys are familiar.
Oh yeah.
Harmony talk boxes became like my dream to do, and I had an opportunity to do it in that song. And I did tell him, I said, "Hey, I'm stealing this from you. Is this okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's totally fine."
Awesome. So I don't think we've covered it, but does the album have a title yet? And when will it be available for consumption?
Sure. So the goal is to get it out by June 29th, which is the same date as our show. I mean, that'll probably be cutting it a little close. At a minimum, we'll have a few singles out by that time. It's very go with the flow. We're just here to have fun. I mean, we have a schedule, but if it doesn't get done by the 29th, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, I would like to get it out by the 29th. The name of the album will just be Nicholas Pare and the Jags, kind of like a debut for that project.
Okay. And it'll be available most streaming platforms or
Yep, streaming CDs for people that still listen to CDs, but YouTube, anything that you can stream music on, it'll be on that.
Awesome. So I have to compliment you, Nicholas. You're a beast guitarist. I love the stuff that you've put out already. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing your new stuff as well. But I think probably some people are wondering where that comes from. In other words, where did you learn and how did you learn? Because there could be an obvious answer there, but I'm not going to assume that, and of course that being with your father.
Yes. And I appreciate you not assuming that, because everybody does. And
sure.
I will say this, he has provided me with more than enough access and resources to become successful. So, but he can't make me successful. So that's kind of the line there. and he never gave me a guitar lesson, I don't think ever. So I learned
Wow.
from, yeah, there was a music store probably 20 minutes from my house where it's called Making Music. Great company. I worked there for a little bit. And now I'm teaching there as well.
Mm.
And so I took lessons when I was 10, just kind of got, I would say, more serious about it when I was 15. And then from that point, I never looked back.
Wow, nice. Well, I would imagine that. I mean, I know when I would learn anything from my father, like even how to mow a lawn, right? It would just go to war, especially in your teenage years, right? So I
Oh,
was
yeah.
wondering and thinking about that with you, and of course, seeing the talent and knowing your father's talent, like kind of how that matched up. So,
Well, yeah. And it still goes to war today. Like at any point in time. Um, and as Jimmy knows, working with my dad is awesome, but he
uh,
Yeah.
has a very set way of doing something. And if you're
uh.
not going to do it that way, then he will do it without you.
That's
But
interesting
I'm
because when your dad was up here and we were interviewing, them with Jimmy and the rest of Kicks, he mentioned I asked him what he listened. I asked all you guys like what you kind of listen to in your off hours, what you're listening to at home, and he brought up Yacht Rock. So do you hear a lot of Yacht Rock around the house?
yeah, yes, especially in the summer.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
that's
true then.
you come around the corner, come around the stairs, and there's I don't know, saxophones and flutes and all that fun stuff. Christopher
And what are
Cross
you
is
listening
a
to?
household name.
That's the playlist. That's the playlist at the pool during the summer.
Yes, it is, Jimmy. Nothing but Christopher Cross and Mike McDonald.
So do you have a contrast to that then? Like, are you listening to something different, or are you going in with the Yacht Rock then to listen around the house also?
I'm not a big yacht rock guy. That's not my that's not necessarily my bag, but I do understand why he's listening to that because he
uh,
grew up in the 80s shred era where everybody's playing a million notes and none of them are playing the right notes.
right.
Um, and that's from a feel perspective.
Mm,
But uh, when you get older, you start listening to slower, I wouldn't say slower music, but softer music. I
mm-hmm.
when I was 15 and I was starting to really, really play guitar, like we were talking about with lessons and stuff, I was really big into Megadeth. And so
Mm-hmm.
Dave Mustaine and
Who
Marty
wouldn't
Friedman,
be? This
yeah,
this man
exactly.
beside me lives and breathes Megadeth. So yeah.
Okay, well, fun Megadeth story very quickly. In 2018, and this actually brings it full circle because I did a rock camp in 2018 in Los Angeles where I met Matt Starr, who also played
Mm,
on some of the drum tracks, along with Jimmy and another drummer named Ricky Slezak. And at that camp, I was fortunate enough to play with Dave. We did Peace Cells and I think Countdown to Extinction. So, or
mm,
not Countdown, Symphony and Destruction.
mm.
So that was a fun time, and it ended up working out
Yeah.
because Matt ended up playing with Kicks as well.
Wow. Wow. Nice.
Yeah, so I think I think we have it queued up. Scott, are we able to? We did want to play a little bit of the clip of the one song you shared with us, if that's
Sure,
okay, just to give the audience a feel for what the music sounds like.
definitely.
So this is okay, and this is "You Gotta Lie." Is that
Yep,
the correct title? Okay,
yep. That'll be the first single.
awesome. And obviously you're playing on it, but who else? Jimmy plays on this tune.
Uh, no, Jimmy does not play on this one.
Okay,
Uh, Ricky Slezak, who's another drummer, kind of local to our area. He's very talented. His drums ended up sounding great. It was another situation where we recorded him from home, so he really did a great job with this song. I played bass and guitar, and then Sean Frazier's on vocals.
got it. Okay. Is there any special backstory to the origin of the song?
Yeah, I was angry and didn't necessarily want to do a thrash type song. This one came together in about 25 minutes, front to back.
Oh wow.
Yeah, this was one of those lightning in a bottle songs, and it definitely kind of carries that Nickelback meets Extreme
Okay.
type of flavor to my writing. So it's
Yeah.
the high energy rock one.
Excellent.
you've now peaked. Scott, our producer's interest, because he's a huge Nickelback fan.
Well, there you go. We'll get along.
All right. So this is You Gotta Lie.
Yep.
Before we get copyright struck.
That is very true. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Definitely
Fantastic playing. I got to compliment you on the playing. Fantastic. Great lead in.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
You
Can certainly hear the Nuno influence.
Absolutely. Yes. I was thinking the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you just in terms of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I was also at the Extreme show with Jimmy, and that song was written after kind of the group of us went to that show because I was so enamored with his percussive playing. Everything he does is so clean and so palm muted that after a couple days, I think that song came out. So it definitely is Nuno-esque.
Excellent. And so I was going to ask you about another possible influence because I caught a cover of you covering Dio's Long Live Rock and Roll. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what brought you to that song specifically and to try to cover that one?
Yeah. Well, I was a senior in high school when that record came out. And that was kind of my first attempt at trying to write music or trying to record it, just learning the process of recording, which Jimmy can, he's kind of already mentioned. The process of recording something can be very, very new and very, very hard. And so just getting used to that process. Long Live Rock and Roll was one of those songs that I played in cover bands when I was 14. And so I already knew it. And that was the first thing that we tried to record. And it ended up just kind of carrying along our process and made the final cut.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about your social media reach. So if folks want to see what's going on, where they can find out, stuff about you, the band, when you may be playing, talk a little bit about where they can find that stuff.
Sure. So I'm most active on Facebook and on Instagram. My Facebook is just my name. So Nicholas Pare, Pare. And my Instagram is Nicholas.Perry. So Pare, because it won't let me do the accent.
Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, to join in. And we're really looking forward to everything that's coming out with the new music and love the stuff that we've heard already. So well, appreciate you.
Thanks
and great,
of
course, Jimmy. Great to see you. Great to see you again and doing well.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya.
We'll see you soon.